Hello, welcome to today's update. You might have noticed that the camera's angle is different and I sound different. This is because I've moved my webcam, to a different angle so that the lighting's a little bit better, especially because it's so bright outside now, even though it's pretty late. And the other thing is that I got a new mic, both for work and so that I can sound better in these videos, just because I've been recording them so much and having so much fun doing so. So I hope this makes your ears a lot happier than the laptop slash webcam mic that I had before. Um, but yeah, so with that out of the way, let's get right into it. So the first thing I did today was that I animated my standing heavy punch, or my standing heavy. A little bit of context here. I actually switched my medium and heavy, standing medium and standing heavy attacks, because I was trying to reference how other games was animating their medium and heavy attacks. So the thing I noticed was that for this is I referenced Guilty Gear specifically for this, where for standing mediums or for standing slash in that game, people would generally not actually move their bodies so much during that. So you can see like for Baiken, for example, she does like this quick slash with her arm, right? Soul does the same thing, Johnny does the same thing, and it's really this kind of minimal movement that encapsulate what that medium attack looks like. It's like a quick long range attack, and I really want to do kind of a very similar thing for my characters, just as a starting point. So I animated this move here, where he kind of pulls back and extends his arm and does a quick swipe here. I've actually also, you've noticed I've stopped animating the cape and the hat, just to save time, because I'm not exactly sure whether these will be final or not. But yeah, so this is what I came up with. I like this motion a lot, actually. I think it looks pretty good, at least in here. So yeah, and here's the old standing heavy punch. I actually make sure I referenced each of them during when I was animating both, and I think you can be able to see it here. No, you can't. But I kind of overlap them over each other to make sure that this move is actually, because I'm using it for the heavy attack now, reaches longer than the medium attack. So this one, because its movement is more elaborate. So I was mentioning a little bit about this before, where for heavy attacks, right, characters are more free to spin around, do different moves, change different postures of their body compared to mediums. So here, right, because I have his shoulders spinning around and doing a swipe with his kind of back arm, I decided to change this into the heavy attack instead. So now both of these are actually in the game. So we can take a look at this. Actually, I wonder whether I should restart this. Okay, it's 50 something. Great. So right now I have the light attack, medium attack, and heavy attack. I'm actually not quite happy with how these things look in the game. This might be because my characters might be too small relative to the screen size, I think. I think they really should be like probably a little bit bigger. And that might add to the feeling of like more impactful moves compared to what I have right now. But I'm not really sure. So that's something I'm still experimenting with. But like the answer is that, or my concern is that these don't look super impactful. And one, it might be because my character is actually rendering behind the other character when it's attacking. And the other is that, right, it's just the motion itself might not be good enough. So I'm not exactly which is which. I'm going to test a bunch of things out maybe tomorrow and see how that goes. But yeah. So the other thing I did today was I have the beginnings of a chain and buffering system. So chain system is something like in a lot of anime fighting games where you can chain your attacks from light, medium to heavy. So you kind of cancel the recovery of your lighter attack into the startup of your heavier attack. So if you just do them separately, so for example, if I do medium and then heavy, it comes out like this, right? So it's kind of slow and there's a lot of delays in between. But then I can actually combo these moves, cancel one of them into the other move. If I hit it, or if it gets blocked, if it hits the opponent. So I have the beginning where I can now chain my light, medium into heavy. So you can see the 3-hit combo on the top left right there. And so yeah, so a little bit about how I actually did this, because I think it's technically pretty interesting, or not interesting, just kind of interesting to explain. Um, is that I right now, instead of kind of when you check a move, instead of directly checking into the attack, right? So if I check that you've pressed standing heavy, right, then it went right into the attack before, but now it would instead go into a buffer. So there's a single kind of one size buffer that kind of um, contains the buffered action. So this buffered action here can be light, medium, heavy, or crouch medium, crouch heavy. Um, and what this allows me to do, right, is that if you press an attack, so if I can actually show this better if I go to the event tick check moves graph. So here, there's no check. There's actually no check before that goes into from stopping it from going to the buffer. So it's gonna go into the buffer, and then so when you right, so when it checks that you are standing, right, and you're pressing a light punch or just light, it will now go through this thing called attack chain mask. So so I have a mask that shows whether things can go into the buffer or not. So normally everything can go into the buffer, but when you're in an attack, the attack changes the chain mask so that you can only go into certain attacks when it's checked. So for example here, if I go into my medium attack, I can set it so that it can only cancel into heavies or cancel into mediums. Only cancel into heavies or mediums. What this means is that when it goes to check whether I enter my moves or not, so when I press a move, it's gonna check whether it actually allows you to go into buffer, and if it does, then it goes in the buffer. And then inside the buffer, then it's gonna have a countdown of 3 frames before the buffer expires and goes back to none. Or if you have it set during a move's startup or active frames, then it will actually cancel the move's recovery. So you can see here, right? So when a move enters recovery here in the final 20 frames, instead of always going there, it's going to check whether there's a buffered action. If there is, then it's going to resolve the buffered action first. It's going to cancel into it. So it's just going to check here. It's just a switch on what the buffered action is, and then it fires the action. One interesting bug here is that I actually found out that because there's actually a 1 frame delay between you pressing the button and the move actually coming out. The other thing is that, however, even though that happens, the animation system, right, also plays the first frame twice. I don't know why it plays like the frame 0 twice. But what this means is that when I release a buffer, right, when I resolve my buffer and kind of push a move out of the buffer, I need to set my move or set the frame position to 1 if it was canceled into, because the timer would instantly start counting down. So what was happening before normally is that the timer would start counting down the next frame, and the animation would also play an extra frame. So that was okay normally, but then when I canceled into it, the timer would start playing that exact frame, right? That means that the animation is now 1 frame behind the timer. So sometimes, so if I put this to 0, you can see that if I cancel into the medium attack, it will look like, right? It's look like he's still in the anticipation frame. And that's just because of that 1 frame delay of the animation. So I have to forward this by 1 frame, and then everything will be okay. So yeah. Yeah, so I actually kind of combined the chain system and the buffer system in a single system, just because they're easier to implement, or basically because I kind of get the buffer system for free by implementing the chain system, because I have to be able to enter in moves during the startup and recovery too. So yeah, let's see. Anything else I wanted to go over? Yeah, that's kind of it. I'm definitely still trying to implement some of the moves. I think so. Crouching light and crouching medium are now disconnected because of the chain system, and I think there's some refactoring that I should do in order to simplify this when I make new moves. So currently, I think this whole branch here should be simplified, so I'm not doing this every time. But now I'm also adding just more things on top of it, which is not great, really, because I have to now set startup and set active. I actually might not need this attack state. This was used before to check whether I can enter a move into the buffer. But now that I have the universal buffer that has an exception case where you can also add things into buffer during an attack startups and active. I might not need it. Wait, actually, I think I do need it. Just because this tick down thing, it needs to not tick down when I'm in a move. When I'm kind of doing those chain cancels. But anyways, I think this system lets me be very flexible in terms of what moves get set or not, or what move can cancel each other or not. And I just need to animate crouching heavy punch next, or crouching heavy next, and then animate the air attacks. And I think after that, and then I already have the chain combo in place, need to refactor a bunch of stuff, and then I can really start playing with the frame data, play testing it, and see the different things that I can do with it, and see how the game flows from there. But I'm happy that I have this basic system done. Oh, one more thing is that you can chain lights into lights. Or I've set it for light punch just because you can I'm using it as a mashing button. So you can mash it a few times and then combo into medium and heavy. And then I can further extend the system into specials and stuff like that, which I already kind of have done. But yeah. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, see you tomorrow.